I'm Cormac Sweeney in the foyer of the House of Commons. Today, the federal budget has finally been unveiled, and there's no better person to talk about it with than Finance Minister Bill Morneau, who joins me right now. Finance Minister, thanks very much for being here.
Happy to be here.
Okay, gender equity is a big issue in this budget, as we expected, and there are many measures to try and help women in the workforce, entrepreneurs, as well as trying to take the burden off when it comes to parental leave. But on the gender pay equity gap, your measures are only affecting the federally regulated workforce. You didn't take any action when it comes to the private sector, where the gender pay gap is actually much larger than in the public sector. Why not take those initiatives when you could have had a better impact when it comes to gender pay equity?
I think, Cormac, what you've identified is the issue that we wanted to address. We want to address the fact that for our economy to be successful over the long term, all Canadians have to have the opportunities. And right now we see that the opportunities for women are not as great as they are for men. There's multiple ways we need to get at that. The one thing that you mentioned was the idea around pay equity for the federally regulated sector. I think it's important to know that the federal government's responsible for the federally regulated sector. So what we've done is we've said we need to be a leader. We need to show that proactive pay equity legislation can make a difference. We also need to think about all those other things that can help to ensure that women have the opportunities that they need to have in our economy. So we thought about parental leave, making sure that both parents could actually have the opportunity for parental leave, and that was an important change by giving a 5 weeks, use it or lose it for the second parent. So you've got a 5.5-month-old, I know you just told me, and the question is, would that have changed your behavior? Would you have taken that additional 5 weeks, which meant that you and your partner would have a way to balance those child rearing responsibilities. So we know that'll help people to be engaged in the workforce. Similarly, we make sure that we've made big investments in science this year. The most important investments in research and science in Canada's history. We've done it in a way that says we want to see that science is focusing also on younger researchers, on interdisciplinary research, and on female researchers, so we can see that those opportunities come for all Canadians. So it's embedded throughout all of this budget. We know that for the long term, again, we can only succeed if everyone has the opportunities that they need.
You've also put forward an initiative to start an advisory council looking at a national pharmacare plan, but there's no costing, no estimates on that, and no timeline at all. When can Canadians expect to see an actual pharmacare plan from the Trudeau government?
Well, we appointed Dr. Eric Hoskins to take on that role, and he quit his last job about 24 hours ago. So I don't think you expect us yet to have gone through the entire analysis to get there. What we've said is that access to pharmaceuticals is critically important as part of our healthcare system. Not everyone has that. So you probably have it through your workplace. I have it as a member of Parliament. Many Canadians have it through their workforce, but not everyone does. So we need to figure out how we can make sure the system works. It doesn't disenfranchise those that already have it, but we make sure that everyone has access. That will take some work to get it right. We're starting down that path today. And as we go through the analysis, we will figure out how best to deliver on that opportunity so that everyone can get the health care that they deserve.
Is your hope to get a pharmacare plan or proposal before the next election?
I think my hope is to make sure that we get through the research and the analysis in a way that points us in a direction to deal with this issue in a responsible way. That's what I'm aiming for. We've not yet set up timelines or any of the other initiatives because we've just announced it today.
There's no direct measures to deal with some of the uncertainty caused in our business world thanks to measures in the U.S., whether it be NAFTA talks or tax measures that are on their way from the United States government. Why no contingency plans or anything worked into that budget to try and address those issues?
Well, I wouldn't agree with your premise, because what I would say is the best plan is being in a good position. So the fact that we've invested and we've got ourselves growing at a faster rate than any other G7 country, the fact that we've got to the lowest unemployment rate in nearly 40 years means that we are in a strong position. The fact that we have the lowest net debt to GDP of any G7 country, and the amount of debt we have as a function of our economy is going down in each year of our budget projection, means we've got the capacity to think about how we can stay competitive. Now, what are we going to do? With NAFTA, we've been very clear that we want a new deal, we want a better deal, but we're not going to accept any deal. We're in a position where our economy is strong, which allows us to think about that. with the tax changes in the United States, which were just introduced, I might remind you, within the last 60 days or so, there's still regulations to be written, so it's not all clear exactly where all the details are. We are going to consider those details to make sure our tax system stays competitive over the long run. But I do want to say, right now we have the lowest small business tax rates among G7 countries, including the United States. We have a situation where, yes, the United States has lowered their tax rates, and now they're within about 1 percentage point of ours. So we may need to consider how we ensure long-term competitiveness, but we need to do our homework to get it right. That's what we're going to do.
There are still deficits for the medium term in terms of your forecasting. In 2015, the Liberals promised to have the books balanced again by 2019. For the 2019 election, will the government at least have a plan to get back to balance?
Well, let's remember what we were talking about in that 2015 election. We had two parties saying austerity and cuts were the way to go. We had one party, our party, saying making investments in Canadians was the way to grow the economy and create success. I'd like to tell you that clearly our approach worked. Fastest growth rates, lowest unemployment, that's a situation we find ourselves in now. So what we're going to do is to maintain that sense of fiscal responsibility. Again, we have the lowest net debt to GDP of G7 countries. Ours is going down while other countries' debt as a function of their economy is going up. So we're going to maintain that fiscally responsible approach. And as we look towards the future, we're going to make sure we continue to ensure the short-term success with jobs and the long-term success that things like our infrastructure spending, which roads to get people back and forth to work, or our science spending, which create innovations and exciting discoveries, those are important for the long term. We've taken a balanced approach to managing our economy, and it's working.
So there's not exactly a yes for a plan to get back to deficits, but I just will ask you as well, are you open to any amendments at all from the opposition parties? They're not too happy with what you've put forward today. Are you open to talking about it and maybe making some changes?
Well, the opposition parties are by definition opposition, so you won't necessarily hear them talking about our budget in a positive way. I think what we'll hear from, though, all parties is a sense that, look, the economy's doing well. More Canadians are employed. The measures we put in place, I mean, we have 300,000 fewer children living in poverty this year than 2013 because of the Canada Child Benefit. The Canada Workers Benefit we're enhancing. We're going to see 70,000 people be lifted out of poverty. So you know, the facts are really strong. We're going to continue to take that approach, and we believe that the budget, as we've put forward, is the right budget to continue on our path to making a difference for all Canadians.
All right, Finance Minister Bill Morneau, thank you so much.
Thank
really
you,
appreciate
Cormac.
it. I'm Cormac Sweeney in the foyer of the House of Commons for City News.